Hi, Don Kennedy. I am also known as Entree Money Coach, and I want to welcome you to getting your financial shit together. I am so excited that you are here, that you're going to be taking control. This planner actually was developed for a workshop that I do called Get Your Financial Shit Together. It's for entrepreneurs. This here will be broken down into quarterly planners so that you can work one quarter at a time with your goals, your planning, your tracking, your mapping, and then review. At the end of each quarter, you can put this book aside with all of your receipts, and you will be just about ready to hand it over to your accountant at the end of the year if you don't do your own taxes. So actually, everything that we're going to do here is a system that doesn't require a lot of spreadsheets, that doesn't require a whole lot of work. It is very intuitive, I feel, and I just want to walk you through and show you exactly how you use your planner. So this is the quarter one planner for 2020 that I will be using as a demonstrator. And if there are any changes in the future, they will be in subsequent modules. So this is going to be the base planner that you will always see and always use every quarter. So I always like to start with an inspiring quote. And this one here has to talk directly to entrepreneurship. And that is, what we really want to do is what we're really meant to do. And when we do what we're meant to do, money comes to us. Doors open for us. We feel useful. And the work that we do feels playful. And I really want you to feel that way in your business. And this is just one area where you can take a little bit of control that's going to make things easier. So a couple of ground rules. Number one, this is supposed to be very laid back. I don't want you to feel all buttoned up here. I want you to go grab a cup of coffee, grab maybe some wine if you're doing this in the evening. And what I want you to do is just manage your money like a boss. And using this will help you do that without a whole lot of stress. It's a pen and pencil system or pen and paper system, or you can, of course, just do the fillable PDF style. I do encourage you to print out the calendars themselves if you're going to use the calendar method, and I'll teach you that one as well. But really, it shouldn't take any more than about 30 minutes a month to do your planning, and maybe about 15 to 20 minutes a week to do your tracking. Now, I do want to let you know that if you signed up for the planning group where you're going to do live planning with me every single month on the last Wednesday of the month, you'll be getting separate emails that have the links to those planning sessions. So right now you have the planner. I want you to dive in and get started with it. And when we get ready to do the next month's planning, then you'll go ahead and hop right onto that live webinar with me, and I'll be there to help you and answer your questions. And also, it's a nice piece of accountability that we're all showing up to do the same thing at the same time. It doesn't get pushed aside with everything else that business does to us. Okay, so getting organized. The first thing we're going to do is calculate your B number. This takes about 30 minutes, but once you have done it one time, you don't have to do it again. I also want you to figure your C-fund deposit, and we're also going to get organized to pay our bills. And let me show you what that looks like. So right here, who do you pay, how much, and when? And actually, you don't even need to put the amounts in there. But the important thing is to have a single location where all of your monthly bills are stored. Let's say that you need to have someone else pay your bills one week for whatever reason. You can just hand them this nice little organized list. It's going to have everything in there that you need. I do have on here address and phone because sometimes we do need to mail things to people. Sometimes it's important to be able to send documents. So I do want you to have that as well, even though you probably are doing a lot of online stuff anymore. So that's the first thing. And it usually takes about 30 to 45 minutes to do this part. So remember, as we're setting up, give yourself a little grace and a little time, especially if you don't have a system already, because we're going to put that in place. So that's task number one. As soon as we get done with this, or you can pause this right now and do it, go ahead and find all of your bills, your electric, your phone, your internet provider, maybe some of your vendors, whatever it is, and I want you to put them all in here. All right? That's your first task. Next task is going to be working on our B number. Now, there's a B number workbook that will also be included in this course. So you can go ahead and work your B number using that particular workbook. And then, of course, there's free videos on the Facebook page that'll walk you through 4 days to your B number. You don't have to take the 4 days, but that's how I did it with 10-minute chunks. So here, you're just going to be looking for your breakthrough number, the minimum number that you need to have every single month. And then everything above that you've broken through to profit. And it's important to have this number and to know what you need to make up front. A lot of people stress out wondering if they've made enough for the month. I don't want that for you. I want you to know, oh, I need to make X in order to take care of everything, including my own paycheck. And that's what this number is going to give you. So we're going to work with 4 walls. Your B number consists of wall 1, which are what you do to keep your doors open. So this includes your internet, your phone, or your, if you're brick and mortar, your rent and utilities. Then wall 2 are your critical operating expenses. So these are going to be things like maybe insurance and software, payment processing fees, banking fees if you have them. Sometimes there's certain things that you need to have in your particular business that without it you can't operate. I have software on here. I've worked with a number of graphic designers who pay for a certain Adobe platform every month or a different type of platform. I've also worked with somebody who was, believe it or not, a private investigator, and she needed to have a certain type of LexisNexis database available for her legally to do her job. That is a critical operating expense. She can't operate without it. Wall 3 is your critical inventory and products, and there's a right spend for this. So this is what you need that are your highest volume sellers, your highest profit margin sellers, and then your long lead item sellers, things that it takes a while for you to get in stock, so you want to keep a few around. So we can work on that wall 3. Sometimes it takes a few different times of calculating it to make sure that you get the right spend number, but it's more in the book. You just need to find those couple of things that you always need to keep on hand to sell. If you happen to be somebody who doesn't actually have inventory and products, that's okay. Skip this number for now. But I do want to remind you that if you give gifts to clients, I have some coaches who give gifts to people, that would be something that would be a cost every month or an expense every month, and I would put it here in wall 3. Especially I had somebody who wrote books and kept them on hand to give away. So she ordered books at wholesale and she either resold them at events or she gave them away as gifts. There's tax implications for doing that. So go ahead and put them right there in wall 3. Wall 4 is your payroll and taxes. Now there are 4 worksheets for wall 4. Don't let it overwhelm you. But what I want you to do is I want you to understand what your wall is going to cost you each month. This would include your paycheck and your taxes. So make sure that you fill this one in and don't skip it and say, well, I just can't pay myself. Well, put a number in there. Let's figure out what your first paycheck should look like if you were paying yourself every other week. So that's wall 4. And then there's a little room to make some notes. When you add up all 4 of those walls together, you will end up with your B number, your monthly 4 walls number. That is the minimum number that you need to make to cover all of your monthly expenses. Put yourself in a position to make profit, like having inventory on hand and being able to pay yourself and your taxes so you don't get in trouble and you can continue to show up every month and do a great job in service because you're actually eating, you're actually taking some money. So again, your B number, I can usually get it for people within, 10 to 30 minutes, depending on your type of business. There are worksheets available. They're going to be in this module also. Feel free to drop any questions to assist@entremoneycoach.com. Also, I'm happy to answer anything that may be specific to your business that you're struggling with. All right. Calculate your C fund. So what is a C fund? C fund is a cyclical fund. So we just talked about your monthly expenses, but we haven't talked about the expenses that you have that are either annual or semi-annual, things like people having to renew a business license, or maybe there's an organization dues that's due, maybe a chamber of commerce or something. And there are going to be, on average, 5 to 6 annual expenses. Now, some people like to order most of their services and their platforms annually and take the big discount. They would go on here as well because they're not a monthly expense. So anything that's quarterly, semi-annually, or annually, I want you to list on here. And we're going to figure out how much we pay and how much our monthly deposit would be if we were to make a C fund or a cyclical fund deposit each month. This protects our operating account because let's say that you have a bill that's $500 due every year. Instead of having to come up with $500 in 1 month, we're actually going to deposit, like $41 a month into an account. So when that year comes around, boom, you have everything that you need. Now, in your first year, you may end up with a little bit of overlap, and the book explains that a little bit, but I want you to know that depositing even small amounts each month will take that pressure off of you making more income and trying to outpace, your bills with your income and your sales. So what we want to do is we really want to set something up pretty soon. Now, if you can't do the C fund right away, I get it, I understand it, but at least have a number. Know what you need to be depositing. And the total of these 5 or 6 things for a lot of businesses are, it's less than $45 a month that needs to go in by the time they do their licenses, they do some renewal fees, things like that. So that number you need to have. Now we're going to get into the actual money management piece. So we have our B number. We know what our minimum amount is to make every month. And we have our C fund amount, our deposit, that we're going to make a line item and put a little bit away each and every month. The first thing, though, I always like to start with are our quarterly goals and some personal development stuff. You are an entrepreneur, and that means that you have got to look forward a little bit beyond where you are today, right now, and the money that you're making. So you need to have some income goal for the quarter. So this is first quarter 2020 when I'm recording this. You would need to figure out a goal. You can do it based on 3 months of your best month. You could do it based on how much you have in stock right now to sell. Lots of different ways that you can make an income goal. I want you to be somewhat realistic with it. And actually, you'll see later on, I'll teach you how to back into profit. But have an income goal every quarter. Have a way to get to that goal, and I'll teach you how to do that as well. So profit parking lots, what is that? Well, these are the things that you're going to do with your money above and beyond your B number once you have your C fund deposits kind of thing. This is going to be, what am I saving my money for? Your money has to have a purpose, because if it doesn't have a purpose, it's just going to run off and spend itself. It just does. It just does. That's a true statement. If we don't track every dollar, if we don't give it a name, if we don't give it a reason for existing in a given account, it will run off. We will spend it on things. By giving yourself a purpose for each of the things of money, you will easily be able to see those amounts growing and know that you're reaching towards your goals. Also, for the quarter, I like personal development. What books do you want to read? What podcasts do you want to listen to? What do you want to do to grow as an entrepreneur and not just growing as a business? I take it very seriously, my own personal development as I'm growing as an entrepreneur. And, I don't think it would hurt anybody to read 1 book a month or 12 books a year, or listen to books on tape, audio. I've done that as well. And then there's some wonderful podcasts out there. Go ahead and listen to a few of them. Get yourself in that great mindset of a person who is growing as well as their business is growing. Finally, I want you to just jot down your why. I know everyone's like, why do I need to keep this in front of me, whatever. It can motivate you. It can motivate you as you're going through the month. And again, this is kind of a self-contained planner, so everything is right there. So feel free, you can flip back to it. Some people are going to print this out and do pen and paper. That's fine. Make notes all over it. Add to your why as you're going. It's perfectly okay. Or log back in and just, do it your way. You're going to save it to your computer. So your spending plan. All right, notice something about your spending plan. Now, I'm using January, even though I'm recording this in January, so our first month together will actually be February, but I want you to notice something. It's a single sheet. It's 1 page. That's it. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be spreadsheets everywhere. You're going to have a couple of things that we're going to keep up in front of us, and that would be our C fund number, an emergency fund or management reserve number, and our B number. Those 3 numbers need to be plugged in every month. Now, an emergency fund is typically 3 times to 6 times your B number in an account that is set aside to protect your business. It protects your operating account. If you have a lower month, you'll still be able to draw your paycheck. You'll still be able to pay all your bills. You'll still be able to be in business and continue to fight. The reason that I want people to have anywhere from 3 to 6 months in there, 3 months is a good quarter that you have to do what I call righting the ship. Let's say that you need to make a pivot to a different audience, or you need to change some processes. If you're not making the same amount of sales, then we go ahead and have some time to pivot and cover our bills. Very important to be able to do that. So if you don't have an emergency fund right now, I would encourage you to figure out what 3 times your B number is and start to have a plan set aside to create that fund and deposit into that fund. Now, it says here current balance, budgeted, add new balance. the numbers of months in reserve. Those are just guides. You know what you'd be comfortable with. As far as budgeted ads, by making it a line item in your budget, you're more apt to put money in an emergency fund than if you don't put it in your budget. It'll just end up being leftovers, or you'll forget to do it altogether. So what are the other things I want to talk about? Well, we have marketing, we have projects, we have growth plans, we have business debts, and then of course these great parking lots. Why are these separate from your B number? Well, I would argue that yes, you need to do marketing if you're going to stay in business, but I'm going to tell you that a lot of people can do things organically if marketing spend becomes a problem. I am more concerned about protecting those four walls of your business, the inside of your business that allows you to keep generating income, than I am about the external things that we pay for that help us in business or maybe help us grow faster. So here's the thing though, marketing. What is your marketing budget? What are you doing? I'm doing Facebook ads for so much. I have someone doing social media for me for so much, something like that. Then projects and growth plan. Well, what are we working on that's going to require money? Oh, I'm putting in this new thing. Or, oh, I have a project to automate this thing and I have to pay someone to do that. Those things also need to go in there. Your business debts, your creditors, that's also outside of that B number. Of course, it's very important to pay all of your bills, but I want you to start to think about it as something that comes secondary to paying your own paycheck and keeping yourself in business. So we're going to list those. And then finally, your profit parking lots. And I want you to put an amount on there that your goal is to deposit that month. Now, can you always overpay these? Sure. Can you always take an excellent month and fill your emergency fund and never go back and touch it again? Absolutely. This is just a plan. And I have a very strong military background. No plan survives first contact. So guess what? We're going to have some weeks where we make more money than others. We're going to have some months where we make more money than others. We're going to have some cycles where we have cash flow things that we need to be in control of. But by doing it this way, by knowing what you need to pay and when and how much you're projecting to spend on things, you can keep control of that money. You can have a very firm idea of what should be left over to go into a parking lot. And you're giving every dollar a name, which is critically important to keep it from running off. Now, these calendars are not fillable because I want you to print them off if you're going to use them this way. Let me tell you where I started teaching people to use calendars like this. I had somebody who owned a boutique. And in the boutique, people walked in and they bought items. So her cash flow was very dependent on foot traffic and on people coming in and spending money. The visual of being able to write down when all of her bills were due, and then she totaled them actually on Sunday. She wasn't open on Sunday or Monday. So she would look at her bills. She would write down what was due on each day, put the total in that Sunday. She knew that she had to make that much that week to cover her basic bills, okay? That included all of her bills, though. So she included her minimum payments on her debt and everything into her calendar. But it gave her a good idea of how she was doing. Plus, if she had a really, really great week, she would know how much she would maybe need to hold back for the next week. And this way here, she also knew her daily spend. Now, the one thing about knowing your daily spend for some people, they tend to panic if they don't make that daily number. So I don't want you to do that if you're a person who is going to lose it, if you realize your average daily spend isn't being made daily. So use the calendar though as a visual if you want to. Just keep it here and mark your B number. When you make your B number, you know, when you start making your B number on the second or third day of the month, it starts to feel really, really good that things are going well. And also I want you to calendar in your paydays because you're going to pay yourself twice a month. If you're not already signed up for Entree Payday, I'd like you to do that. And that's entremoneycoach.com/payday. You get a newsletter every other week. It reminds you to celebrate being an entrepreneur, that you've been in business another 2 weeks, and that you need to write yourself a paycheck, even if it's only $10. I want you to write yourself a paycheck. So another thing that we can do is if we look at January here on the 30th, this is our last Wednesday of the month. This would be the month that we would do our live planning webinar all together, where we'll get in the room and we will take this time together. It's an accountability exercise and also getting your questions answered. So if you are enrolled in the monthly planning group, you can see right on the calendar here when it's going to be held. So on January 30th, we will hold the monthly planning group for February. So this right here is a monthly money tracker, and you don't have to do it this way. So I'm going to tell you this is one of those places where you can personalize for yourself. I like doing it this way because I'm able to write down very specifically and give every dollar a name. What I do is on the monthly money tracker, I just write down what I've earned for the week. On another sheet of paper, of course, I can do my daily totals, and I do. I can write down my dailies. I don't have a daily tracker in here. One is available if you'd like it. Just email me. But the reason is because most people are pretty good about doing that. Really what it comes down to is they might look at the daily, but they never actually take an aggregate and put everything together and track all their money. So your week 1 bucket is the dates that you're working on and the amount that you earned for the entire week. And you decide what a week is. So I told you one of the boutique owners I work with, their week ended on Sunday. That was the week where she would total up all of her sales and also what was going to be due for the next week. Some people, you know, you could do it on Monday. It's completely up to you. But the next thing you're going to do is the bills that are paid and the amounts that are paid. And then other buckets that are filled. Now, what are these other buckets? Could be an emergency fund, could be a profit parking lot, it could be your C fund, whatever it is. But I want you to notice that the amount earned that comes in up top should equal all of the money that has been put out either in bills or buckets. And that is because what? We have to have every dollar accounted for, everything spent and earmarked and accounted for, I guess, and paid for every single week. I like to do this on the weekly. Sometimes people do it on the bi-weekly. That's fine. If you don't like this system, that's fine. Some people do it in an Excel spreadsheet, but the same things are still tracked, and that's going to be the amount that comes in, and then the amount that was paid out in expenses, and then other buckets that are filled. Now, if you're paying expenses like your C fund expenses from your C fund account, they don't go here. That is something that is tracked on your C fund calendar. That's where you're going to look and you're going to say, oh yes, no, I pulled money from this account to pay for this. And again, it's just noted. Not anything that you have to go crazy about, because remember the C fund is being filled as you're going, just to make sure that you're protecting your operating account. So this is really your operating account information. This is the money that's come in. Some things that people do also note on here is if you take credit cards, there are interchange fees, and they'll go ahead and they'll note the interchange fees every week also to make up so that it balances evenly. Some people just use, you know, an app on their phone from the bank that tells them the money in, money out. I also like to use a checkbook register that talks about money in and money out. So it's completely up to you, but I do need you tracking how much you bring in, the expenses that you paid, and where you parked the rest of your money. That's non-negotiable. And at the end of the week, the total in should equal the total out, just to make sure that every dollar has been accounted for. I don't really like miscellaneous, and I don't like petty cash. If you buy office supplies, say office supplies. This way here, you can account for everything. Plus, at the end of the quarter, you keep this book and you can hand this right to an accountant or a bookkeeper, and they'll very easily be able to see your categories, what you paid to who, and then when. Okay, then we get right into our February spending plan, and we rinse and repeat. So again, we would talk about our emergency fund and our C fund deposits. Now, up here where it says other buckets filled, you would put C fund and make your deposit. This way here too, you can tell what week you're making these deposits, because you only need to deposit it one time a month. So as long as it's within this 4-week cycle, your C fund is being paid, you're meeting your minimum obligations to protect your funds. Same thing with an emergency fund. Sometimes you want to put money in weekly, sometimes you're going to want to put money in monthly, but this gives you a single page snapshot of where your money's going and when you're transacting certain types of business. And again, February, you would just print this out. It's the same way. You don't have to use the calendar. I did have a desk calendar for years that I liked and I used. I do it a little differently now. I do it much more this way, where I plan on paper this way. But either way is fine. If you do it this way, then you can just plan this way. And in the white space at the bottom there, write your profit parking lots and what you plan to put in there. The beautiful thing about this is you can do what feels good for you. The biggest thing is that you are going to plan. You are going to have something in writing every single month that makes it completely possible to track all of your money. And remember here too, there's not any one right way to do business, okay? Some people put everything in a holding account and they pay their bills once a month. That's one way. Some people pay every single week. That's another way. But they're intentional about sitting down and paying their bills. They're making sure that they're in control of that cash flow at any given time of the month. They're not letting people go in and take money out of their account, which could leave them shortchanged for a bill that comes due. So these types of cash flow things become much easier to be aware of and to be able to manage when we're writing everything down. And it really doesn't take that long. You can make this a very easy habit for yourself. So again, you would do your tracking for February. And then you would make your plan for March. Again, we would sit down. If we go back to this calendar here, the last Wednesday is going to be the 26th of February. So the 26th of February, we're going to sit down and we're going to do our planning for March if you're in the monthly group. And then March comes around, and then guess what? End of the quarter here. So you finish your monthly tracking for March, and guess what? Now we have a checklist. This is your review. So we're going to be talking about your self-employment taxes and your personal taxes. Now remember, that's part of your B number. So once you make your B number every month, you know that that's being taken care of. And under the tracker where it says bills that were paid, you would put on here payroll and the amount of your payroll. Again, we don't want to, make this too complicated. Categories can stay the same and you just plug in the numbers. So if you are an employer, of course, you have something called a 940 and a 941. You would want to make sure that you're paying those quarterly taxes or signing, from your accountant, sending you the tax return you have to file quarterly, sending it in. You would submit your sales taxes, or maybe you have VAT taxes. You're going to want to make sure you submit those. You're going to review your spending plan categories. Maybe, just maybe, you reached one of your project goals here. And so, for the next month, this project comes off. Yay! And we replace it with something else. Or maybe we don't have a project anymore and we have to move that money into a profit parking lot situation. And then we're going to recalculate our B number, but really only if there's been significant changes. Now, in one quarter, I can tell you that I've worked with some people who have vendor changes because especially restaurants, prices do fluctuate quite a bit and margins are very thin. So sometimes they will be changing vendors, every quarter to 2 quarters for certain items. You may find that you are adding something and so your inventory spend has changed, or maybe you're ready to bump up your paycheck. And that's where you would have a change also to your B number. And we want to make sure that we take the moment to calculate that. The other thing about your B number is, let's say you're planning to make some kind of change. Let's say you want to hire a virtual assistant, you want to add an employee. You can actually use the B number process to do a projection and to see what it would look like to your B number if you did add that person or if you did add that line of business. You can actually use that B number calculation that way. So for some people, they calculate their B number every quarter because of what they're planning to add into their business, either a product, service, or employee. And then you have to celebrate your wins. I'm a huge win celebrator. I'm very much a cheerleader also for all things entrepreneur. You are doing what 90% of the population is not going to do. They're not going to start businesses. They aren't going to do those things. So I'm huge about doing that. Maybe you buy something nice for yourself. Maybe you take yourself out to dinner. Maybe you toast with some champagne. Whatever it is that makes you feel like you are winning, I want you to do that. And again, writing yourself those paychecks is another reason to celebrate your wins and to be able to show up and just be an entrepreneur. Embrace the freedom that comes with it and the hard work and your creativity and your determination. I think that those are qualities that really need to be honored and celebrated. And so I'm going to remind you at every turn to celebrate your wins. Celebrate every other week when you write a check. Celebrate every quarter that these things have gotten done. Because these are the things that people don't like to do. I'll be honest with you. They don't want to deposit their taxes. I personally love depositing my taxes because that means I got to take a paycheck. And that's something that, to give you an analogy, as a caveman, I went out, I killed it, I dragged it back, and now I get to eat it. And I just, I really embrace that creativity and determination and perseverance of being an entrepreneur. And I love the feeling that I get of being able to sign the front of my check and then turn around and sign the back. So finally, we're going to set your big goal for April to June. It can be an income goal. It can be a volume goal. It can be a personal development goal. It can be whatever goal that you want. But I want you to go ahead and set yourself a goal for April through June. The last thing I want you to do is in March here, around the 15th, so this one here, it'll be Sunday. Guess what? The next quarter planner is going to be available through Entre Money Coach. So your planner for April, May, and June, it's going to look a little different. It's going to have some different quotes in it, but the formats are going to be the same. So April, May, and June, the planners will be ready to go. So make sure you hop over there and you order your next planner, and I'm sure I'll drop you an email to remind you to do that. So I hope this has answered your questions and given you a good walkthrough as to how you're going to now take control of your money. You're going to understand where every dollar goes, or pound, or if you're watching this in Europe, every euro goes. And I want you to know that every step that you take, even if it's an imperfect step, is a step forward. So if you forget to log things for a couple of days, that's okay. You're learning something new, you're doing something a different way, and I want you to know that if you ever have a question or need some support, hit me at assist@entremoneycoach.com, and we will be there to support you. So thank you so much for your attention, and I hope that this is a wonderful tool for you and that you start changing your business and your life immediately. Take action today as soon as you watch this recording. Take care.